Good evening, I'm Cadet Pason. I'm 1st Squad, 1st Platoon, Charger Company 1-5 Infantry Squad Leader, and this is Operation Bobcat Lightning. So this is our platoon task organization, no later than 30/2200 August 2024. Our task is to disrupt enemy forces in AO Ronin in order to deny enemy influence on the battalion main objective. So here we are 1st Squad, we are the main objective for our platoon. Our task is to attack to destroy objective Phantom in order to deny enemy influence on the battalion DO. Our key weapon systems include the M249 and the M320. Attached to us is Gun Team 1, tasked to support by fire in order to enable freedom of maneuver for the main objective. 2nd Squad and 3rd Squad are supporting elements 1 and 2. And then Gun Team 2 will be attached to 2nd Squad. Here is our squad task organization. So the main effort will be Alpha Team and Bravo Team will be supporting effort number 1. Main effort will be to attack to destroy objective Phantom in order to deny enemy influence on the battalion DO, and thus the Bravo Team will have the task to secure in order to enable freedom of maneuver for main objective. Both key weapon systems are the M249 and the M320. Weapons Team will be attached to Alpha Team, and this will be tasked to support by fire in order to enable freedom of maneuver for the main objective. So here is our area of interest. North, south, east, west. We have 37 northing, 31 northing for north and south, 17 easting, and 10 easting for east and west. And so this can also be traced by Route Camaro in the north, objective Phantom south, severely restricted terrain over here in the east, and the Bainin River to the west over here. So assets they have in this area is a platoon Z-10K attack helicopter in vicinity of Taetung Air Base, and they identify a U.S. battalion or higher within 30 minutes. Indirect fires include a battery of PL-66 152mm howitzers in vicinity of Taetung Air Base, AO Ronin, identification of greater than a squad within 10 minutes. One PP-87 located on objective Phantom UF1197 Tree 18 Fowler identifies based on counterfire radar within 5 minutes, and reserves towards southwest of our AO is one motorized platoon near UF08 Fowler 525 Fowler 7, and signs of US forces advancing along MSRs in the coastal region within 40 minutes. Additionally, they have a platoon minus of PGZ-04 Alphas and a platoon of HQ-16s. Here is our GTAO. So in terms of terrain, we have existing natural high-end coastal mountain range and the Bainin River. So here we have severely restricted terrain both in the north and in the east. In terms of reinforcing, limited use of wire obstacles to control and disrupt vehicle traffic along Route Camaro up here in the north. So these existing natural obstacles will canalize mounted movement and severely hinder dismounted movement. So forces will be forced to use predictable routes within the center of our GTAO here, and tempo and concealment may suffer. So we have to keep that in mind with our tempo and our surprise element with our attacks. So avenue of approach 1 here is canalized between severely restricted terrain, and it's a platoon-sized mobility corridor into objective Phantom running along Songlin route. Here we have avenue of approach 2. This is a squad-sized mobility corridor that again runs along the ridge here on the south, or on the more eastern side of the severely restricted terrain into objective Phantom. Our third friendly avenue of approach is a platoon-sized mobility corridor down from Route Camaro into the Songlin route and then reaching objective Phantom. In terms of avenue of approaches for enemy, we have the fourth avenue approach, which is a squad-sized mobility corridor, assuming that forces from the southwest cross the Bainin River at a more southern bridge below AO Ronin and travel up into objective Phantom. Over here, we have avenue of approach 5, which assumes that enemy forces will cross over at the bridge from the civilian sector down the Bainin River and into our objectives. Key terrain 1 is the bridge at UF100 Fowler Tree 5 up here. And then, so again, that will just allow enemy freedom of maneuver towards the objective. Key terrain 2 is the intersection at UF 1120 tree 21 tree, and this is right near our objective. So key terrain 1 allows enemy mobility towards the objective. However, key terrain 2 is crucial that we control. It has the ideal firing position over enemy forces, and it is crucial to the mission. We have to control key terrain 2. Across the entire GTAO, we have long fields of fire across open hills, such as the key terrain 2 hilltop, as well as the ridges over here. So long range fields of fire will be limited due to thick and dense vegetation. However, along hilltops and ridges, they have best observation over us, and we have long range and observation over below. So we have to be sure that we are concealed and we are observing appropriately. Now, in terms of vegetation and cover and concealment, vegetation reduced by IDF and limits long-range fires. So we are vulnerable to surveillance along ridges, again, and limited cover increases risk of IDF for both us and the enemy. So we must maximize these terrain features and be aware of detection on ridges. Our weather, we have visibility, decreasing illumination, consistently overcast skies, and precipitation that will all really affect our visibility. So this reduces ability to detect enemy forces. However, we will have enhanced concealment, and vice versa. The enemy will have reduced ability to detect us. So therefore, we will be favored during nighttime movement. Therefore, we are traveling to do our operation no later than 2200 past sunset, which will be at about 1815. In terms of wind, low wind speeds with gusts lower than 9 miles per hour most days, having minimal effect on movement and fires. However, this just tells us that noise discipline is favored. The force with the best noise discipline will be favored. Moderate to high precipitation, 65 to 75%, therefore reduced mobility on unimproved roads. This favors the enemy force as they have more knowledge over alternative routes to avoid mobility challenges. Cloud cover, almost complete cloud cover throughout from about 98 to 99%. So again, this reduces observation and air abilities for the enemy. So that favors friendly forces for concealment and not being detected by air abilities. Temperature and humidity, high heat and humidity temperatures from 74 to 88 and humidity 83 to 89. So this accelerates fatigue and exhaustion for both enemy and friendly. So this is a neutral favor, but friendly and enemy forces might take shortcuts to maintain effective movement. So we just have to maintain knowledge about this. We have to make sure that we are not taking shortcuts and we're maintaining effective on our objectives. Here we have the company level sit temp. So as you can see, we have a platoon disrupting, controlling, occupying, and disrupting down here. I will point one note to you. Here we have our enemy mortar team disrupting in the eastern direction with a PP-87 mortar, and as you can see, here's the max effective range. On this map, you will see here's the PP-87. The max effective range is well beyond the scope of this map. So here's the platoon and our unit faces at 90% strength. Their task is to occupy and deny U.S. forces freedom of maneuver. The headquarters of the platoon is attached to the first squad with the task to occupy in order to deny U.S. forces freedom of maneuver. They have 4 packs and 8 packs, respectively, due to the 90% strength. The supporting element number 2 is tasked to disrupt and deny enemy forces, U.S. forces freedom of maneuver in the Route Camaro area. And down here is the main element to control and protect in order to protect key terrain. So here is that squad that we are concerned with the most, and they're attached enemy mortar team disrupting in the eastern direction. Key weapon systems include the DJY-88 or the M249 equivalent, QJZ-89 M2 equivalent, and the DZJ-08 AT4 equivalent. The most dangerous weapon system, however, is the PP-87, which is equivalent to the M245 81mm mortar. Here is our macro sit temp. So again, it is unlikely that we will interact with all of these squads along the Benin River, but just for your situational awareness, there are 3 squads. The 2 northernmost have the same task to occupy in order to prevent U.S. forces freedom of maneuver along that route, Route Camaro, and down towards the objective. The objective, however, is here with the attached mortar squad attached with the team down here tasked to control and protect in order to protect key terrain. Now here again we have that surveillance recon squad, and they are tasked to occupy in order to disrupt U.S. forces' freedom of maneuver. And here is where our avenue of approach 1 squad sized element avenue of approach is. So we have to make sure that this ridge here is not being observed by that surveillance team squad. Here is our micro level, and again here, as you can see, here is our objective with the mortar team right here. And so they are operating to the southeast of the LDAs so as not to break up their unit, and so we need to be mindful of that as they will be targeting our movement from over here, as well as the 2 teams that are occupying or controlling in order to hold key terrain to the west of the objective. Over here we have Route Reserve, which is where the Southern motorized platoon reserve will come within 40 minutes, as well as Route Recon, where the reconnaissance squad is positioned north of this sit temp. So in terms of intelligence, the recon squad at UF 1355 Tree 70 will provide information to other units on our squad's movement. So this is their strength, as the enemy will maintain situational awareness on USF movement through the AO. Movement and maneuver is decentralized. Their command is decentralized, which will delay movement and comms. I'll come back to this later, but this is a significant weakness for them in terms of sustainment and control, as well as they'll be degraded through weather and high elevation terrain and dense vegetation as it is. This will not help them. Fires, they have IDF mortar team on objective. So this is a strength, as they will not hesitate to engage with IDF assets. US forces must be aware of concealment and detection when moving. Again, protection, sustainment, command and control. For protection, they have a strength with dense vegetation and recon elements. They'll be concealed and have situational awareness. However, with sustainment and command and control, it will complicate sustainment efforts with their decentralized command as well as dense vegetation, and it will limit their communication with their decentralized command. The purpose of the enemy's operation is to control in order to prevent U.S. forces from maintaining key terrain. They'll accomplish this by conducting a form of defense. Decisive to their operation is maintaining control over key terrain, and this is decisive because key terrain allows them to have critical observation in fields of fire as well as mortar team effectivity. The purpose of their enablers is to disrupt 1st Squad, 1st Platoon, Charger Company access to AO Ronin. Their end state for terrain is primary MSRs and AO Ronin contested. For enemy, U.S. forces elements disrupted. Civilian minimized, casualties, damage to infrastructure, and friendly casualties minimized. K2 control for future offensive operations. The most dangerous course of action is if we encounter the squads near the bridge over here. Ideally, we will only encounter the southernmost forces, and we will not encounter forces by the bridge. Additionally, the high value targets is going to be the CSK, as this is very helpful for the enemy, but crucial to the operation is our destroying of the enemy mortar team on the objective. This concludes my brief.